Here we have one big rectangle with 48 circles, and we can think of this rectangle as being one big fraction bar. So if we take half of our rectangle or fraction bar and keep only half of the circles, we now have 24 circles. That's because 1/2 of 48 is 24. Remember, finding a half is the same as dividing by 2, so dividing by the denominator, and 48 divided by 2 is 24. So now we have 24 circles. If we split those 24 circles in half, and again keep only half, we now have 12 circles. That's because 1/2 of 24, or 24 divided by 2, is 12. But notice the fraction bar. If you look at the whole fraction bar, we now have 1/4 shaded in. Remember, we had 48 circles in our fraction bar to begin with, so 1/4 of 48 is also 12. So notice we can find 1/4 by finding half and then finding half again. So now we have 12 circles. If again we split those 12 circles in half and keep only half, we now have 6 circles. That's because half of 12, or 12 divided by 2, is 6. But notice the whole fraction bar, we now have one part out of 8. There were 48 circles to start with, so because we have 1/8 of our fraction bar shaded, and because there were 48 circles to start with, we also know that 1/8 of 48 is 6. So notice to find 1/8, we can find half, then find a half again, and then find a half once more. Now, in this rectangle, we have 32 circles. Again, we can think of this rectangle as being a fraction bar. So if we find half and keep only half of our 32 circles, we now have 16 circles. That's because 1/2 of 32 is 16. Remember, to find a fraction of a number, we divide by the denominator, and 32 divided by 2 is 16. So now we can take our 16 circles and split them in half. So if we keep only half of our 16 circles, we now have 8 circles. That's because 1/2 of 16, or 16 divided by 2, is 8. But notice the whole fraction bar. We now have 1/4 shaded. There were 32 circles in our fraction bar to start with, so we've shown here that 1/4 of 32 is also 8, because to find 1/4, you can find 1/2 and then find a half again. So now we have 8 circles. If again we split them in half and keep only half, we now have 4 circles, and that's because half of 8, or 8 divided by 2, is 4. But again, notice the whole fraction bar. We now have only one part out of 8 parts shaded, so we've also shown here that 1/8 of 32 is also 4, because remember, there were 32 circles to begin with, and we now have 1/8 shaded. So, to find 1/8, we can find a half again, and then find a half once more. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that was helpful. If you're a teacher or a parent, then please subscribe or go to keystage2maths.com to download resources for this lesson and many more. That's all for now. I'll see you in the next video.